Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our November 18th, 2025 meeting. This is held both virtually and in person. So I'm going to call the meeting to order and start off with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which includes Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Stugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgine Island First Nations. The Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of the lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I'm going to look for a moment of silent reflection for council and staff to quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we represent. Thank you. All right, then I'll ask everyone to make sure your cell phones are off so they don't disturb the meeting. And I'll remind council of declaration of pecuniary interest. If it arises, you can declare it then. We have minutes here from the November 4th meeting. If everything's in order, I'll look for a motion that we receive those minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor West, second by Councillor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we're going to move right into delegations, and we have a few delegations here today. The first one is Bill Lett with Unity Design and Craig with Morlock Construction with the arena project. So I'll ask you to come up to the microphone and welcome.
It's very, I should know to hit that by now. It's been, I've been a few times here at the podium. Thanks very much for the opportunity to come and answer your questions today on the arena project.
Okay, so we can get your computer down, Craig. Oh, okay. So this is what you have there.
Sure, yeah. So I did present a report just on the overall schedule of the project to date. So far, we've experienced some challenges to the schedule, to the critical path of the schedule, and had previously reported that the completion has moved backwards to September, early September of next year. And upon reporting that, I was asked just to come here and report on things. So I pulled together some of the key factors that were contributing to this. Excuse me. And I can touch on those items. So one of the first item indicated was the building permit process. So overall, it's impacted the critical path. They've been delayed by 118 working days. Just for clarity, if I say days, I do refer to actual calendar working calendar days. Excuse me. So this was due to the initial application having to be reapplied due to some comments made on that, largely being the requirement for sprinklers identified during the permit review. So that took some time to then go back through and work through to be ready for permit reapplication. Spin-off to that was the sprinkler system requirements identified. Upon learning this, it's about a 98-day overall impact, impact, not necessarily all of those days impacting the 107-day delay, but a portion of it. Upon learning that, we did then learn that the water supply to the existing building was insufficient. So there was some additional work to go into figuring out how we would address that. And then also bringing in a design component to that scope of work to ensure that we had proper design, bringing that water service to the building, the new water service to the building. And then additionally, on top of that, when we were excavating for the addition, We ran into some existing underground duct banks, concrete encased services into the building that ran directly through the addition footprint, which meant that we had to go back to the design team and have them work through the implications of those existing conditions on the foundation plan, and elevations of existing footings and things that were determined at that time. That was roughly a 27-day impact. So overall, when we look at things, obviously, when you're looking at calendar days, you can't claim, if you're delayed one day on multiple items, you can't claim multiple items, it's 1 day delay. So when we look at the overall impact of things and overlay them, we hit the 107 days. A couple things I wanted to touch on was some mitigation efforts that we had. So during the course of this, we've run into the permit, the sprinklers, the duct bank, and the associated engineering delay or engineering requirements for the service into the building for the sprinklers. If you look at all of those impacts, it overlays into 164 days of critical path impact. And when I say critical path, I'm referring to every task, if it impacts something that's directly related to the completion of the project. So in this instance, it was directly related to us starting on the addition. We were delayed by a total of 164 days with 9 weather days accounted for in there. We're currently experiencing a 107-day delay to the completion. So I think it's worth highlighting that although we did experience 164, I think through the collaboration of us, of our team, which is Unity, Mortlock Construction, and all of the fine folks at Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, and particularly the building department, we would have we could have been exposed to a much more significant delay. Couple other items that we talk about that aren't related to critical path, but are experienced that have caused challenges to the project. So one item that has been a success that I think is worth talking about is we did have partial occupancy for hockey season. It's not related to, again, the addition, so therefore it doesn't really impact critical path. However, we were tasked with ensuring that hockey season started in the middle of September. During our work to make sure that the renovations would be complete to a level acceptable by Travis and his team, we did discover a couple of items. One was the added requirement of an exit door, and the other was the existing plumbing was not up to code, and there were significant issues with the plumbing in the building. We were able to pull off those items through collaboration, through process that was done outside of standard process, ensuring that we were working on items ahead of waiting for paperwork, direct communications with the building officials, those types of things. Within 17 working days, we had the plumbing turned around, repaired, and remediated so that we could have partial occupancy of the space for hockey season to start on September 19th. Those are the highlights. So in summary, we have 118 days. Well, we have 107 days of total critical path impact. That's really my report. There's a lot, I have a lot more, but that's the high level review of it.
Okay. Thank you for your delegation here anyways, and I appreciate everything that you're saying here. Some of the questions I had before I opened up the council is, like, I understand the duct bank interference, like that's something underground you didn't know was there. Some of these other things, I struggle to know why it wasn't discovered as part of the initial drawings. Like, you would think some of those things would have been, like the sprinkler is the big thing, but like in water pressure, I'm just surprised that none of that was picked up, and it's a part of the holdup. It's good that you're working together, and the other side of this thing is I wonder if it's 118 days behind, is there any way of picking up some of those days by, picking up the pace on something or spending hours or, it's nice that you were able to work with hockey to get them open because I would have killed it if we couldn't get them open. But now we're struggling with the Lions Club and they wanted to use their building. To lose a whole year, it starts to impact the function of the club. So I don't know, you can speak to that and I'll open up the council up.
Thanks, Your Worship. Appreciate the question and understand where you're coming from. So there were a few questions there, so I'll try and unpack some. So the first piece is that some of the things that came up and things around permits, emissions, and all of that is I think we've got to go to 30,000 feet and look at the high level here. If you remember, I came and talked to council quite some time ago about different contract models. And we talked about stipulated sum model, which a lot of municipalities do, the construction management model, which a lot of municipalities do, design, build, etc. And so in the case of the construction management process, in order to shorten the time frame and to be able to deal with things like opening social occupancy of a building and everything like that, construction management process gives you a lot more flexibility. So you've entered into a CCDC 5B contract with Mortlock. We have a standard OAA contract with you, and then there's an agreement that we work together to try and solve these things. But what it means is rather than a linear process where we go through all of the due diligence and everything and we get to a point and then we tender the project and then a contractor like Mortlock commits to that and we've already got a permit in place and everything else, what we do is we compress it. So against a standard stipulated sum contract, you're getting this building probably a year ahead of schedule that you would in a traditional model. And with that comes risks. And I talked about that. And it means that we're designing when building is happening and we're reacting to things. Specifically, some of the things like that have happened are at the early onset of the project. We talked to staff about who else we wanted to include in this project, and at the time, we did not choose to include a civil engineer, not understanding some of the water resource issues that you have and stuff like that. Maybe we probably should have brought on a civil engineer early in the project. Our code consultants felt that there might be an opportunity for an alternate solution under the building code, not to sprinkler the building. But if we were to meet the building code part 3 fully as opposed to part 11 of the building code, which does give us some leniency and to sprinkler a small portion of the building, which is the new portion of the building, not any of the existing portion of the building, meant that we had to react to that as we were going down that road. I think fundamentally on some of those things that where one of the things that we talk about a lot at Unity is continuous improvement and lessons learned. And I would say that in this project, over communication would probably have been a better solution, that we needed to do more talking with everybody earlier on in the project to make sure that assumptions and everything that were being made were appropriate assumptions to move the project forward. So there was some delay caused because of those. There are some gray areas, and that's what typically happens in a construction management project. I think fundamentally, when when we're in collaborative models like this, there's another collaborative model called integrated project delivery that we do a lot of. We talk about the differences between how the client, like the consultants, and the contractor all think they're speaking the same language, but sometimes there's differences around it. And the same way, that we provide a contingency in the budget because we know, it's the old Donald Rumsfeld saying of there's the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. Same with schedule. When we had the schedule is a living document and it changes based on these things that happen. And when our team at Unity was reviewing Mortlock's schedule, we should have talked about looking at a contingency in the schedule, knowing the complexities around this, knowing that we had to rip open walls, knowing a bit later, the condition of the water and all of the other pieces on the project. We probably should have recommended that because we do see these construction management schedules slide. It's not uncommon to see that because of some of the complexities of renovation and addition. and just working through some of the other aspects of them.
Before opening to council, I do have, like, later in correspondence, we had an action item with regards to the president of the Lions Club, trying to get some timelines on when they can get in there, and to tell them next September is really tough. I just wonder your communication thing, even if we were able to know that that might be something we can open some communication up with the Lions Club and see what we can do, if there's any way of helping them, the same as we did with hockey, to get them at least kind of back in action, you know, a little quicker than next September. So
absolutely. And again, on the over communicating piece, I think, you know, one of the things that I reflect on this project is, as a municipality, this is a big project for you. You haven't done a big project in a while, and we should have done a better job making sure that what was being presented on a bi-weekly basis, as far as schedule and cost and everything like that, that we were helping you with a strategy to communicate with your stakeholders. You know, certainly when we're working in other municipalities, we have staff whose, if bigger municipalities whose sole job is stakeholder communication, and you don't have that, obviously. So just making sure that stakeholders are kept in the loop, because it was, like, frankly, a bit of a shock for us when we saw the Lions Club piece to see the November date, because since the project started, it's the date was, you know, late spring, and now we're talking about early fall. So there's a disconnect there that fundamentally I don't think we fully understand. So again, I think it's more about over communication, and certainly going forward, that's something that we can commit to. As far as what that looks like for getting them in earlier, I'll let this guy on that.
Yeah, so it's that's been brought forward at the table during our bi-weekly meetings when it was identified that that would be problematic. We have some challenges to do that. We have an elevator that has to go in that is tied into the addition. So therefore that elevator has to wait on the addition in order to be installed. Obviously, without the elevator, we don't have the accessibility that may be required to get you up to that space. So that is a major factor in looking at what could be done around that. We've had projects that have looked at that and found ways to go without the elevator. However, they've been more tied to your typically able-bodied individuals that may be attending those, and leniency that way, and clients willing to say, yes, we do not have anybody that required the barrier-free access. That might not be the case with the Lions Club, I'm assuming, but so that could make it very challenging. Not to say that it's not on the table, and I think it is something that we will continue to work with. Again, I think I would love to highlight the fact that I don't know that I've had the same level of interaction with any leaf building official as I have with Travis, and the hurdles we've been able to overcome for hockey season lead me to be as positive as I could be to find alternative solutions to get them ahead of the completion of the overall project. However, there's major hurdles, and we haven't yet determined how or if they could be mitigated and found solutions to. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that in a week when we meet on site, it will be one of the top priorities of our discussions, as it was last meeting and meetings before, talking about schedule. Outside of that, I can't commit to anything, but other than full-blown effort, as we had with the hockey season, and turning over every stone to think about alternative means to find ways to make that work for your fine folks at the Lions Den.
thank you. And on a positive note, it looks great what you've done already. Just it'd be nice to go a little quicker, but anyways, I'll open up to council for any questions.
Can I just also advance for that? Sorry. Yeah, your worship. The other piece is I would recommend asking your stakeholder as well what they might be comfortable with.
Yeah.
So we have, just as a reference, in other municipalities, we have opened what would be considered assembly occupancy spaces on upper floors, knowing that the elevator will be coming and that it will fully meet all the intent of the building code. As long as the stakeholder understands that and can communicate that to everybody that's utilizing the space. And as long as all the authorities having jurisdiction are comfortable with a period of time that the building isn't fully accessible, then we certainly have done that in the past as well to get people into a building sooner. And I'll be honest with you, we are currently doing it with another municipality.
Perfect. Okay. Deputy Mayor Webb, you had.
Yeah, through your mayor, thank you very much to both of you for coming today. Thank you very much for this report. Very comprehensive and explains a lot of the questions, at least that I've had, maybe other members of council have had in terms of what's going on there, what caused these delays. One thing that kind of struck me, I believe it's on page 1, paragraph 5. It says early in the design process, certain code interpretations were applied to balance legacy building conditions with modern safety requirements. However, during permit review, the township's building department determined that a stricter interpretation consistent with new construction standards under Part 3 was required. As a result, the design team undertook revisions. And when I get to it's a couple of pages later, I believe section A in the permit process. So the original design, I believe, was begun on February 6, 2025. And then this was recognized on May 7th. So just in terms of that moving forward, I think we're just trying to get answers in terms of how we can maybe keep this from happening in the future. When you're going through the design process, do you engage with, say, our staff or other staff on a project? Because what I'm seeing here is that you guys basically put out the plan, and until our staff saw it 3 months later when it was identified. So while if we were working together, maybe that could have been identified earlier. Is that kind of what we're getting at in terms of working together better communication?
Sure, through the mayor. Thank you for the question, Councilor Redmond, great question. And so we did go through a pre-consultation process with the planning department and the building department earlier than that date. And that is typical in any process. And we always like to get in front of the authorities having jurisdiction, because we also didn't know if we needed a site plan approval on this project as well. And so I think again, lessons learned, we could have been much clearer about our interpretations under Part 11 of the code and where we thought things like travel distances might lead. Even the sprinklering, to sprinkler a small portion of the existing building. It was our hope that we could have potentially looked at some alternative solutions, which is always an option. It's unique, especially when you're dealing with something like this. But in order to meet the full intent of the code, which is best, and from a safety standpoint and everything like that, and not having to go through an alternate solution process, this was the best way forward. And fundamentally, I think if there's other factors that feed into this discussion too. If we had submitted an alternate solution for the project, for this phase of the project, that may or may not have been acceptable, we would have had to put together the argument with our code consultants. However, knowing that there was going to be a phase 2, potentially in the future, did you see the $55 million that was announced and approved last night for community centers? Then it did behoove us to do the full scope and go the full way and take the time now to sprinkler a small portion of the building, because in the future potentially a bigger portion of the building would be sprinklered. So we should have been clear in the pre-consultation about our thinking behind this. Our team was probably a bit obtuse around that, because we do this all the time, and we think we're all talking the same language, and we could have probably done a better job of taking advantage of that pre-consultation.
Thank you for that. Personally, I'm not really looking to lay blame here. I'm just looking to prevent this from happening again in the future. And if there's anything like this we can identify that will prevent these delays and maybe added costs in the future, I think it's behooved upon us. That's our responsibility as members of council for our residents, right? So thank you very much for coming today.
Councilor Doherty?
Through you, Mayor, through Bill, thanks for the presentation. What do you look at when you're looking at renovations? How many times do you attend the building? Do you check the plans of the area? Do you not check the water? Like, I guess from the outside looking in, the people that pay our bills are saying is, why didn't they catch that earlier? Like sprinklers, that's something I don't know about. That's kind of what we hired consultants for. So answer and the other thing is it's an arena, which we know there's a hockey season, and it seemed to be a surprise that we wanted it to open in September, which I don't understand. And we certainly have the Lions that have been very understanding to date. Now we're kicking the can down more in their busiest season, the summertime, where they have a lot of their events. So it's hard from my perspective, talking to the people and that in HBM, is to understand why these things happen when we employ architects, designs, contractors. Maybe you could expand on that, because there seems only be one side delays here. All these delays seem to be somebody else's problem or situation. And quite frankly, it from the outside looking in, Mr. Led, it doesn't hold water, if you may.
Okay, yeah, certainly through the mayor. Appreciate the question, and absolutely. And these, specifically you asked about the existing building. So one of the reasons why we talked about construction management for this project was the municipality has no documentation on the existing building. The municipality did not have any information about the servicing for this building. And so we pointed that risk out early in the project, and we said we have none of this information to go by. We recommended that a LiDAR scan be done of the building, which was the most we could do to understand the shape and the form of the building, the plan of the building, and everything like that. But we knew nothing what was behind the walls. And we specifically said, there's going to be things that come out of this that we don't know. In some cases, we come into renovation projects where there are as-built documents of a building and we fully understand what's behind the walls and everything like that. So what we help you do as the client is we help you mitigate your risk by saying, we understand that there's going to be these unknown unknowns, to go back to the Rumsfeld piece, those would be the known unknowns. There's going to be things that come out of this. And so let's plan for them and let's budget for them. So that's why we're not saying that the project is extremely like it's not over budget at all. The project is tracking well from a budgetary standpoint, and it's because of that. It's the things that you don't know inside existing buildings unless they're fully documented and you understand that. With regard to some of the delays, I will challenge you a bit on that, because the other piece from a lessons learned standpoint is that you are more engaged than any other council that we've ever dealt with as an organization. And so, for instance, when tender package 4 was complete, as an example, it was ready to go to Wortlock. It had been gone through our quality control, quality assurance piece, and then we found out that it did need to come to council for approval, and that was a 24-day business day delay to that particular tender package in order for you to review the finishes, and that's all fine and good. We just have to schedule for these things and understand, again, it comes to that over communication standpoint. These are the expectations that everybody's going to have. Let's look at the tender packages. What are the handoffs? I always talk about handoffs in this process, and we didn't have a good enough conversation around handoffs, and we should have had a conversation. And so again, we can instigate that, and that is certainly a lesson learned. To Councillor Webb's point about understanding, what we do differently going forward with a different capital project. Hope that answers the question.
Just to try, and I apologize for my informality in handling this. I'm not overly through the mayor, I guess is what I'm supposed to. I apologize for using anyway. I'm just a contractor trying to get it. Anyway, I would just add to that in scheduling as construction managers, we put together comprehensive construction schedules. And part of that is even a pre-construction phase that we schedule things, knowing that the design is going to come to us in pieces. We have to try and work our way forward. So as we're doing and tendering foundations and mechanical and electrical trades, they're working on the shell or the finishes package. So I put together schedules based on a lot of predecessors that aren't related to the actual construction, but I indicate sort of timelines and things all based on assumptions. Put through, you know, applications and standardizing guests at approvals. Together our initial schedule, it was based on many assumed, as are all schedules, that none of us have crystal balls. They're all assumed timelines, assumed whatnot. So that sort of drives the construction schedule as it was put forward at the beginning of the project. I just wanted to let you all know that, you know, we're not just sitting here waiting to be handed something and then scheduling. We're planning this out, but it's all based on assumed, you know, completions, and having to reapply for the building permit was certainly something that then shifts other components of the build. It did allow us to focus on the renovation and get you in for hockey season, but unfortunately it's also it's been a double-edged sword for sure, and mostly probably on the delay side.
Oh, I follow to you, Mayor. That's great. Something that Mr. Lett said, the unknowns and the unknowns and the unknowns. If there was that many unknowns, why wasn't there more elastic in your schedule to deal with the unknowns as opposed to dealing with them after the unknown has become a known? If you no pun intended there.
I appreciate that. And I think that's what I was trying to communicate earlier is when Craig gave us his control schedule, you know, again, just like from a super high level standpoint, in the contract that you entered into with Morlock Construction, the schedule is not a given. It's a forecasted schedule, and contractually, Morlock has to update that schedule continuously, and we should have done a better job communicating the fact that we didn't understand what the water service was, we didn't understand what the electrical service was. We felt that we made all of that known at the start, but I'll be honest with you, and this is more of a philosophical answer, because we have done a lot of work with Morlock Construction. What I would say is that both of our companies are very much project first mentality. We have a project first mentality, so we don't want to disappoint, right? So by showing something where we say, oh, we've put a bunch of fluff in here because we don't know necessarily, doesn't look like we're on the flip side of that, doesn't look like we're necessarily understanding all of the components. But in this case, we should have, because we had no documentation on the existing building, and should have been clear that some of that pre-construction work that Craig was talking about might take longer. And some of that pre-construction, like before we started anything, did in fact take longer.
Any other questions from council? Okay, Councilor Fleischer, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin. You guys are doing great, and I don't think it's a problem on your end. You said at the beginning that there was no, the sprinkler system wasn't on. It wasn't in the original plans, correct? Okay, and it's our building department that said that there has to be a sprinkler system? No. Where did that come from then?
Through the mayor, let me try and provide some clarity. You can approach a renovation project and an addition project under the building code. The building code has objectives for safety. And the assumption was that we made, which was the wrong assumption on our part, was that working with our code consultants, we would take a part 11 approach, which would mean we would have to show that some of the concessions that were being made didn't necessarily meet the intent of the code, but there was something there to provide the same level of safety or something to that effect. So all we're doing is we're talking about travel distances here to get from the arena bleachers to the outside of the building. And the thinking was that working with our code consultants was that because the addition was such a small component that already had there was only really a vestibule and the concession, but the concession would already have fire suppression in it. Potentially, depending on the vendor, et cetera, another unknown. We don't, know exactly how the concession's being run. Anyway, that was the piece around the sprinklering. And ultimately, this has nothing, the building department, again, Craig mentioned how great the department was to work with, and that certainly is the case. But in order to do this highest and best use, classifying it under part 3, which is not just for renovations, but it's a new build part of the code, meant that we were meeting the best, highest standards. And so putting the sprinklers in made sense, especially given the potential for the fees.
Okay, so it basically, it's all because it's a new addition to so if you would have been just doing it inside the arena, you wouldn't need the sprinkler system.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That'll clarify a lot. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions?
Just a
Okay, go
comment.
ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin, I want to thank Bill and Craig for coming here today. We have been meeting on a regular basis, as was said in the presentation. This is probably the largest project financially and in a complication way. This is the most complicated project we've dealt with, certainly in my time in the township. And we have 2 excellent partners that we're dealing with. Both are very good at what they do. We're all learning how to do this. Every department has been involved in this project. And we're all learning how to do this. We're learning how to work together. It hasn't been perfect, but I think at the end of the day, we're gonna have an excellent product when we're done. And I think it's something the community will be proud of and council should be proud of. So I just want to thank the gentleman for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for coming to yeah, we look forward to you coming sometime in the winter and saying, oh, we're way ahead of schedule. We're gonna open in.
I look forward to that.
We're gonna open Canada Day.
I'm looking forward to the first poutine we'll have.
Okay,
I do take this very, very seriously. Like we're a local builder, I'm not Peterborough, but that's local, and we care a lot about what everybody within our district says about us and thinks about us. I do want you to know that we're 100% committed, and we will turn over every stone we possibly can and continue to do so to get the job done ahead of what we're showing. But we still have, the process. Unfortunately, it's not, like it used to be. We do have processes to follow, and we're following them. And but we will constantly find ways to expedite those processes and move forward. I do want to highlight one thing before I go. 16 days to do their architectural review by Havelock's building department was phenomenal. So kudos to Travis and his team. 2 days after we reissued the resubmission on the second permit application, 2 days we had a permit. That's crazy. Sorry, very impressive. I do want to just commend, where is he over there? There he is in the corner, as usual, just tucked away, not taking any credit, but that's been amazing. And working through with him on the partial occupancy has been fantastic. And Bob and Josh and Steve, fantastic to be working with. And I just wanted to, before I left, I wanted to commend. I probably won't be up here. Hopefully I won't be up here again talking about anything other than positives, but there's some positive takeaways.
thank you very much.
Can we do Old Town Hall?
Sure, okay, yeah, Old Town Hall, maybe we can touch on that while you're.
They're getting tired.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, so. And that's one of the problems, like even with one building down, now we've got 2 buildings down, so it's made it even worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we're with the Old Town Hall now, we're trying to get it open. Are we getting close to be able to use it? I'll let Bob.
Yeah. So just a couple things through you, Mayor Martin. So there are a couple of reports on our agenda today. One is in the information section of our agenda with respect to repairs to the Old Town Hall, dealing with the mezzanine and the abatement. And this report simply brings forward the quotations that were received and the recommendations that have gone forward. So that work is starting soon, if it hasn't started already, and there's a timeline of January there to finish the abatement after the mezzanine. And maybe Craig, you can just speak to that and how that's going on.
Sure, yeah, so Jason, who's here, works, he's our construction manager and he's helping me manage that. He's been working with the trades. We were awarded it, we've moved forward, we've awarded the contracts to Ashburn Metals and to Crozier, to Metals for the mezzanine railings and Crozier for the abatement. The rough-in and measurements have already taken place as of either today or yesterday. So they now then trigger the longest lead item, which is the glass, can be 8 to 10 week delivery. So we've measured that up. They're going to work through their design, send it over to us to approve how it's laid out, how they've measured it and everything else. And then we approve that and then they order that. So that's likely, as of right now, the scope of work that we have on our plates is what we would consider, again, the critical path. That's the latest action item that will take place. Crozier is scheduled for Monday. This Friday.
Friday to get everything sealed up, yeah.
Even better. Crozier is scheduled for this Friday to begin the abatement. It's not a huge job for them, so we wanted to get the measurements and things done underneath, done ahead of time, because you can't share that space while abatement is taking place. So get the railings measured, get that time frame ticking, that clock ticking on the order, and then start Crozier to do the abatement and the insulation. So beyond that, that's the work that we've awarded to date and under our control. However, I do know that there'll be some other items that could be added to that list. And then once that's done, then we have trades to work with on materialities and things like that. But we can easily generate a schedule based on that and what the time of when it's approved and what makes the most sense.
Okay, any questions?
Just so when you say 8 to 10 weeks for the glass, there again, like, so it's been this long with the glass, to get people to be able to use it, if that's blocked off, is that suitable? Or I don't know whether that's a Travis thing or a Mortlock thing, but
What I would suggest we do is we get the shop drawing, we call it, but the sketch of what's going to be done, which is very close to the drawings. We could send that over to have a discussion potentially to see if that would, without the glass, if that would meet the intention of the code as far as being a barrier. We would have to review that specifically. As of right now, that hasn't been brought forward, but we could review that certainly to see if getting the railings in early could permit an earlier potential use.
it's a well-used space and we're really feeling it, so.
I appreciate that. We're expediting it to the best of our abilities. Again, we're tendering things, presenting to you, and then getting approvals and getting that contract issued and awarded as quickly as we possibly can. So yeah, so I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions around the town hall? All right.
Through you, Mayor Martin. So there is a second report, and this is in the action of the agenda pertaining to Old Town Hall. And that report recommends a repair to the accessible entrance at the accessible ramp, which needs to be done. And then there is an option for council with respect to either a drywall or tongue and groove repair to the ceiling. I think I might let Craig explain. There's a difference in cost, and then there's a difference in the look of it when it's done. So
yeah,
if there's any questions from council about those things, we should discuss that now while Craig is here.
Okay.
Sure. So I can, well, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead. I was gonna make a motion, so.
Okay. Yeah, so the need for a ceiling unfortunately came up with the fact that there was no existing vapor barrier in that attic space. So from a building envelope standpoint, we are improving the building envelope of that. However, it did mean that unfortunately in doing so would mean that the existing ceiling could not remain. So we looked at two options. One is a simple painted drywall option for the ceiling, and the other is a tongue and groove wood ceiling to best replicate however old that ceiling is. It's not going to look the same heritage wise, but it would be a wood ceiling, tongue and groove stained wood ceiling to kind of replicate that existing ceiling.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna make a motion, but are we gonna wait?
Yeah.
Can we bring this? Okay. Or, no.
Just if you have
Thank you very much.
questions now that he's here.
Yeah, I know he kind of
Yeah,
answered
okay.
what I was asking for.
Yep,
Is-
good stuff.
Thank you.
Rob also has my email.
Thank you.
Email and cell phone. Yeah. Not my home address.
Okay, so motion to receive the delegation today. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Clement. All in favor, and that's carried. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right, our next delegation here is citywide asset management, and Aaron Sharma is online here. Welcome.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Arun Sharma. Before I begin, I just want to confirm that the audio and video is coming through okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So again, thank you again for having me today. I'm very excited to be presenting the 2025 Asset Management Plan. We do have a slide deck prepared for everyone here today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll jump right into the presentation. There we go. Okay. Now, just in terms of the agenda today, very briefly, we're going to first begin by going through the project overview, what some of the requirements, timelines, and what our general process has been over the past year as we have completed the 2025 Asset Management Plan. I'll then briefly touch on the Ontario Regulation 588-17, as that is the kind of the backbone and the basis of this project and report. Following that, we'll jump right into the actual asset management plan in and of itself. So what some of the key findings are, selecting our proposed levels of service, which I'm going to be explaining in the coming slides, as well as most importantly, our current and financial position at the township. We'll then conclude the presentation with some takeaways and some immediate action items for both staff and council, and then we'll end it with a Q&A session at the very end there. Before I begin, though, and discuss the actual project and the asset management plan, I do want to give a shout out and just kudos to everyone over there on the team, specifically Lionel and the rest of the team there. They've done an absolutely fantastic job in collaborating with us over the past year for this 2025 asset management plan, whether it be our biweekly meetings or just getting us the information that we need to produce this report. So I did want to acknowledge all the hard work and dedication that the staff have put in over the past year. With that being said, let's transition over a little bit here and discuss kind of the project overview. So in regards to the requirements and why we drafted this 2025 asset management plan, first and foremost, we needed to ensure that the municipality is in compliance with Ontario Regulation 588-17, which indicates by 2025 there needs to be an updated report of the asset management plan, specifically in regards to proposed levels of service and what that will look like for the municipality over the next 10 years. And like I mentioned in the previous slide, I'm going to discuss a little bit about what exactly proposed levels of service mean. Our secondary objective, and just as importantly, is the consolidation and the further refinement of municipal asset data. As we all intuitively know, the better your data is, the more accurate and better your report will be. So having updated and accurate data is paramount to the asset management plan. In regards to a timeline, as I alluded to a few slides ago, we've been working on this project for since Q1 of this year, so culminating now in November. So we've been working quite diligently on this for about 11 months now. And as you can see there, that data refinement piece is something we've been working on for about 8 months, just getting better replacement costs and condition scores of our different assets. We've also been meeting on a regular biweekly basis for staff workshops where we are talking about all of our assets, making sure information is up to date, and making sure that we are updating the asset register. And then over the past few months, that has culminated in the actual draft process itself. Touching on that first point with the data refinement, so something that we've been working very diligently on is the continuous improvement of the municipality's centralized asset register. So, Citywide is the software utilized by municipal staff. So, what we did at the beginning of the project was identify any of these data gaps. So, whether it be a facility that has an outdated replacement cost or getting better unit costing for our underground infrastructure. These are all things that we've been working on for months to ensure that we've got the most updated information as possible. So we've conducted a data gap analysis, we've done our standardized data refinement, and we've identified future priorities at the municipality as well. During our biweekly check-ins and our staff workshops, really the purpose of these workshops over the past year or so is really understanding and trying to leverage the subject matter expertise at the township to understand how your assets are managed. So this is everything from an operations and maintenance standpoint to rehabilitation and ultimately replacement. So really understanding how assets are managed, how they're rehabilitated and replaced, what our life cycle activities are, so on and so forth. These are all things that we were discussed and are documented and within the asset management plan as well. So from that, we then had a few working sessions on understanding what our levels of service are. So our roads are in X condition. For example, there may be one or two or five bridges or culverts which may have loading restrictions. So there are both mandated and non-compulsory levels of service metrics which are being tracked by the municipality currently. So really understanding, well, what are our current levels of service metrics? And then from that, what do we think, what will our KPIs be over the next 10 years? And during these working sessions as well, of course, we're not going to be selecting any proposed levels of service without understanding what the financial picture is. Because at the end of the day, selecting any KPI in any organization, it's got to be done sustainably and reasonably, and they must be attainable, of course. Just shifting gears a little bit in terms of discussing the Ontario Regulation 588-17. What you're looking at here on the screen now is essentially a timeline that has been laid out by the province from 2019 to 2025. So with the culmination of this report, the 2025 Compliant Asset Management Plan, I'm happy to report that the township is in 100% compliance with the province. So in 2019, the township did draft a strategic asset management policy, which was then updated at the end of last year. So kudos to everyone at the municipality for making sure that we were in compliance there. And then if you recall last year, we completed the 2024 asset management plan. And now in this year, 2025, we've got the 2025 compliant plan, which of course speaks to our proposed KPIs or proposed levels of service for the next 10 years. So we can get right into the actual plan itself, and the next few slides are essentially just some high-level details, but very important information within the asset management plan. Firstly, beginning with the total replacement cost of the asset portfolio. So HBM, of course, has a full asset portfolio consisting of course, your facilities, all underground infrastructure, but also non-core asset categories such as land improvements, vehicles, machinery and equipment, and facilities. So you will notice the difference from 2024 to 2025. As I had mentioned, we've got better, more up-to-date information. So there is a slight increase from last year, and that's because we've got better and more accurate data. And that goes to one of the points that I'd really like to highlight here, which is just the importance of continuous improvement and just always ensuring that we are, even though now that this asset management plan is done, I do want to stress the importance of staff to take it upon themselves to make sure that we're updating replacement costs and condition scores and pertinent attribute information on a scheduled basis, whether that be every 3 months or 6 months. The important thing is to ensure that we're always keeping our replacement cost details up to date and as accurate as possible. Shifting gears and to talk about condition, what you're looking at here is a general overall breakdown of the condition of all of our assets at the township. So this is it's essentially a 5-tier system. What we're looking at here, and it goes from very poor to very good. So 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, and so on. So a few key things here is we can see that there's essentially about equal distribution between our very poor assets to our very good assets here. But taking a more granular look at it on our next slide here, we can see that for the most part, our assets are in pretty good shape, with the exception being at the bottom there with our water network. We can see that quite a bit of our assets pertaining or related to the water network are in poor or very poor condition. Now, while this information is of course valuable, the other thing that we do need to keep an eye on, and we do want to inform everyone here, though, is the importance of understanding how we derive these condition scores. So what you're looking at here essentially is all of our categories, so everything from our road all the way down to our water network, and what the source of our condition data is. So of course, where we've got a higher percentage of assets assessed, we're going to be more confident in that data. So as we can see at the bottom there with our water network, no assets within our water network have a formal third-party condition assessment. Now, this is fairly typical for municipalities because doing condition scores on all of our underground infrastructure just isn't reasonable or attainable to do so from a cost standpoint or just a practicality standpoint. But that being said, in other cases such as our road network or our bridges and culverts or our facilities, much of these assets have been assessed, and it also goes to show that the big ticket items, the asset categories that carry a higher replacement cost, these are getting priority. That isn't to say that this can't improve, because as you can see at the bottom there, it does indicate that about 51% of all assets have some form of a condition assessment attached to them. So that being said, going forward, if we take a look at machinery, equipment, vehicles, and land improvements, these are all things that we strongly recommend that whether it be done internally or externally, that some of these high priority assets within the respective asset categories do get some sort of a formal assessment, right? So whether they are critical to the municipality or they carry a high replacement cost, we will generally recommend that those assets be identified and we get some sort of a condition assessment tag to it. Because not to beat a dead horse here, but like I said earlier, the better information we have, the more accurate and more confident we can be in the report as well. Now, in regards to selecting our KPIs and our proposed levels of service over the next 10 years, I would like to provide the legislative requirements around that. So what the province has laid out here is, on an annual basis, there's got to be a report, and this will be brought forth by someone on the municipal staff there. But essentially, there's going to be an annual update on the identified levels of service metrics. So we've taken a condition perspective here, which is to say, this is the condition of our assets in 2025. This is what we project them to be in 26, 27, 28, and so on and so forth. So what you can anticipate is like a pretty short and brief update on an annual basis on those KPIs. But that being said, within the asset management plan itself, we've also indicated why we've also provided an explanation on why those KPIs are appropriate. We've discussed the risks associated with our proposed levels of service in terms of long-term sustainability, how they differ from our current levels of service being provided, whether or not they're achievable, and how the municipality is going to afford this over the next 10 years. So, for example, if we're saying our roads are currently in a good condition, so let's say 60 out of 100, for example, the goal of the municipality is to improve that to 65. So if that, hypothetically, if that was our KPI or levels of service target, we would have to indicate, okay, well, why have we selected that? How is it different from what we're currently delivering to our constituents? Whether or not it's achievable or not. So these are all of the legislative requirements within the asset management plan as well. So when our team and the team over there at HBM were having our collaborative workshops, we needed to come up with a methodology in terms of, well, what will our KPIs be? Which takes us to our next point. So as part of the selection process, we essentially collaborated and created a few what we like to call what if scenarios. So these scenarios, there's three of them to be exact. They've been analyzed and integrated into the asset management plan. And I would refer you to sections 4.7, 5.7, 6.7, and so on of the asset management plan, which provides a much more detailed breakdown of each scenario. But to provide a little bit of information here, I'd like to just describe what some of these scenarios were. So scenario one, we essentially says, okay, we understand what our current practices are, the strengths and weaknesses are. We, based on that, we are able to calculate the average annual requirement that we need, what the projected condition of our assets will be over the next 10 years, and we can then derive the investment required in order for us to hit our condition targets. So that's scenario one. Scenario two, and this one is fantastic to illustrate within the asset management plan, is just, well, what happens if we don't increase investments to our assets? So let's just say we currently invest $2 million in our roads, and we're just going to keep that flat. We're not going to increase that at all over the next 10 years. We're then able to project out the condition and then show kind of the results of what that will look like in 10 years. And scenario three, which is also a fantastic scenario as well, is setting a minimum baseline condition threshold. So, for example, if our roads are in good condition, so let's say 60 out of 100, scenario three essentially looks at, well, what is the minimum amount of money that we would need to invest to ensure that it doesn't drop below that fair condition? So, fair in the context of the condition scale and methodology we used is greater to or equal than 40 out of 100. So what is the minimum baseline condition score? So these were the three scenarios that we brought into the plan, we analyzed, and we essentially were able to look at the pros and cons of each of these scenarios. So that being said, scenario one has been selected and will form the basis of this presentation and the slides to follow. So what we're looking at then for our proposed levels of service over the next 10 years, and we've broken it out by category. And there's a few things that I'd like everyone to pay attention to here, which is the average condition. As you can see, for our roads, our bridges, and our water network, nothing is going to drop below that fair rating, which is, of course, good. The other thing that I'd like everyone to pay attention to here is the next column, the average risk rating. Now, this is a score from 0 to 25. And essentially, there's a lot of information packed into this, into just this number, but essentially, and to simplify it, essentially what we've done is we've conducted some risk analysis on all of the assets pertaining to the road network. So We've taken a look at several variables such as replacement costs, service life remaining, the estimated useful life of our assets, the condition scores that the condition assessment that it's had, and the condition that it's currently in. So we've taken a look at various numerous variables to give us this average risk rating. So effectively it's a quantitative score out of 25. And as you can see with our roads, our bridges, and water network, nothing hits a score of 15. So just as an FYI, anything 15 and above is what we would classify as high risk. So as you can see, based on the scenario we've selected, our condition scores at a minimum, so these will be minimum condition scores. We anticipate our assets staying in good working conditions while mitigating risk. So again, with the replacement cost, the condition, the service life remaining of our assets, we can anticipate that none of our asset categories will be in high risk. And this is constant throughout. Effectively. So whether it's our sanitary, storm, or facilities, again, you can see that in some cases with our sanitary and storm, the average condition of our assets, we are projecting that they will remain or be in good condition. And again, while the risk is quite low there, specifically with the sanitary and storm network there. And again, with our vehicles, machinery, and equipment and land improvements, we can anticipate that at a minimum, the condition of our assets will be in fair condition, and we are mitigating risk as per the parameters we've set in our quantitative analysis there. So there's a lot of information packed into this, and honestly, I could probably talk about just these 3 slides in much greater detail, but for the sake of time, that being said, the overall messaging that I would take that I would take from these slides is that based on the information that we have and based on the scenario and the scenario we've selected, we can confidently project that the conditions are going to remain in fair or good shape while mitigating risk, as nothing has been identified as quote unquote high risk. So nothing has a score of over 15. So the next thing that I'd like for us to transition to here is just kind of the financial picture. So why did we select scenario 1? And the reason for that, again, there's quite a bit of information packed into here, but the reason for that is because of what we're looking at here in terms of the available the funding available. So if we take a look at the bottom there, where we see the average annual requirement for our tax funded assets is about 3.3 million. So these are our average annual requirements. We can see that based on 2024 financial figures, the total available funding available is about 2.7 million. Leaving an annual deficit of about 557,000. Now, what that indicates is that the municipality is currently at 83.1% fully funded. For some context there, though, the municipal average is about 44%. So the township is currently on a good trajectory for hitting 100% being fully funded, because ultimately that we should be working towards that. But so I do want to highlight that, and that is a definite positive takeaway here, which is that the municipality is that the funding available for the municipalities is at an appropriate level, and we are continuing to go in the right direction. And the same thing honestly can be said about the rate funded assets. So again, we can see our average annual requirements there being about 746,000. The total available funding that the municipality has is about 473,000, leaving a gap of 273,000 on an annual basis. And again, what this indicates to us is that, again, the municipality is about 63.4% funded, again, above the provincial average as well. So whether it is our assets funded through our property taxation or whether it's our rate funded assets through which is our water and sanitary network, we're currently in good shape. And with the proposed levels of service we've selected and the recommended property tax and rate increases that we will be recommending, the township is on a good trajectory there. In terms of the financial outlook then, and in terms of getting up to that 100% fully funded and to ensure that our assets remain in good working condition while mitigating risk, Section 1.4 of the asset management plan, you'll find this in that section, but what we are recommending based on the current information that we have is that over the next 10 years, a 0.7% annual increase to property taxation, 2.2% to the water rates, and 3% for wastewater rate. And this generally, this does fall within the municipal average of about 2 to 4%. You can actually see we're on the lower end of that because HBM has done a fantastic job and in terms of already being more funded than the municipal average. So it does fall right in between that general 2 to 4%. So this is what we're recommending based on the current information within the asset register and our proposed levels of service over the next 10 years. In terms of some takeaways and action items then, there's just a few things that I'd like to mention, which is first and foremost, asset management is always evolving. Now that this report has been completed, it's hopefully it's not just going to collect dust. The idea is that the asset management plan be reviewed and updated on an annual basis. Good data is the backbone of setting any type of metric. So if we do get better data, whether it be in a couple months or next year, the idea is to integrate that into the asset management software and adjust metrics as needed. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that we have intentionally started small with in regards to selecting our different KPIs. And the idea behind that is let's start small, have good data, and then expand when we're required to. So in 2030, which is when the township is legislatively required to have an updated asset management plan. The other thing that I'd like to mention, that third point there is we've provided proposed levels of service metrics and KPIs for the next 10 years. However, they must be revisited on an annual basis, but then they must be updated formally within the asset management plan in 5 years. And again, as better information, data, reports, and studies become available, it's going to be crucial to integrate them into not only the asset register, but also formally in the township's asset management practices. That being said, we're confident, both the staff and our team here at PSD, that the township has selected tangible, realistic, and financially sustainable targets over the next 10 years. In terms of some immediate action items, then, our recommendation is that council, as per Section 8 of the Ontario Regulation 588-17, firstly, approve by resolution the asset management plan, and following that, authorize staff to post the document on the township's website. So that concludes my the slide deck. I'll more than happy to open it up to the floor if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. I will open it up to council if you have any questions. Councilor Clement, go ahead.
So through your Mayor Martin, I have a question, but I'm actually going to direct it to Lionel about the land improvements, because I'm looking at the amounts we're putting into it, and usually land improvements would be lighting, some sewer stuff. Can you just expand on that one a little bit for me, Lionel? That's the only one I'm questioning.
Through you, Chair, I'm not sure if this is working, but so land improvements, it'd be like a catch-all for things like you will need to landscape or just generally do work at a park that wasn't like a tangible piece of equipment or a vehicle. So it's a fairly large catch-all category. So putting a lot of money into it, I guess it all depends on what our needs are. So yeah,
Would it be outside like lighting along the streets or is this lighting in parks?
I'm not sure if it's always going to be lighting. Perhaps Arun would have a little bit more of a insight in terms of what is typically categorized that way in asset registers.
Sure. Yep, through the mayor. Thank you for the question. So, like Lionel was saying, the best way I can explain it, land improvements is essentially kind of a hodgepodge of like the assets that are left over. So, what we've categorized as land improvements for the purpose of this AMP is everything from fencing to landscaping, parking lots, sports fields. Your specific question in terms of lighting, that would be in related to those sports fields. So lighting on those sports fields or at parks. If you're talking about street lighting, I'm not 100% certain, but I don't believe they. Oh yes, they were captured within the road network under signs and signals. So the sign signals and street lights, they were captured within the road network. But those other smaller type of lighting fixture, whether it be at like an arena or park, that would be under land improvements.
Okay. Councilor Doherty, go ahead.
Thanks for the presentation, but I'm not sure what page you're on, but in our presentation, under roads needs, it says target reinvestment rate and actual reinvestment rate. Can you explain that a little bit? Because I'm a little confused because it says target investment is 6.45% and the actual investment rate is 9.33. What does that mean?
Through the mayor, thank you for your question. Are you before I can answer that, are you referring to the information you're looking at? Is that within the asset management plan? I can pull that up right now if you've got that in front of you.
Or is it somewhere else?
In Lionel's report,
It's in Lionel's report.
so the attachment, there it is.
Right there. There you
Oh,
go.
there we go. There we go. Yeah, I just pulled it up. So effectively what we're saying, the target reinvestment rate, you know what, I will bring this up to make it just so we're all on the same page here. Right. So what you're looking at right now then effectively saying that the annual capital that we have divided into our replacement costs, that accounts for about 6.45%. The funding that we're actually investing is, so based on this graph, it would appear that we are over investing. So we're putting 9.3% of our available funding into our asset category. So what this is effectively saying is we are investing in our roads at or probably more than we need to, but that isn't to say that the road network is being overfunded. This is just a snapshot of 2024. So this is what it looked like in 2024. And I believe I mentioned we mentioned this within the financial strategy here. So if you just bear with me for 1 second. Right. So you can see that uh, even though we require, based on the information, we require 7% tax change over the next 10 years. Based on 2024 numbers, that the road network was the more money went into the road network that necessarily may have been required. But just because there is that, there's a negative number here or a negative figure, that isn't to say that it's being over invested. It's just to say in 2024 we invested more money than we would typically need to. So that's really all it's saying.
Lionel,
And if I can just piggyback onto that, there's often the take ONPF funding, for example. I mean, there's some years where we would devote a large amount of that to roads because it's the type of funding that can be used for any municipal purpose. The following year, it could be used for anything else. So I think it was a good way of putting it, Byron. It's a snapshot of 1 year, but it actually shows there's a little bit of flexibility. Shows that, if needed, that can be shifted to another area that has a greater need in 27, 28, and so on.
Dear Mayor, I don't know what page it's on, but it's technical levels of service. That's it says scope, percentage of properties connected to municipal wastewater network, TBD. I don't know her that well. What is that? How
Right.
come we can't have the numbers, how many people are connected to the sewer system? I'm sure the people that get their bills would disagree with this, but
Through the mayor. Yeah, thank you for the question. Very simply, the reason why we weren't able to provide that is because the information just either was not provided or we just didn't have sufficient information. That isn't to say we can't get that updated, but as it is right now, that information just has not been provided to us, which is why we've indicated that it's to be decided.
well, most of that information isn't part of the presentation. It's to do with this presentation. We don't have it with us.
I don't.
It's attached to Lionel's report.
Gary's gonna finish up here.
go ahead. No,
It's good.
I don't know.
Yeah, just-
Yeah, I got another one.
Through you, Mayor Martin. Lionel, you just said that we receive money that goes into the roads and it doesn't necessarily have to go into the roads every year, but it does go in. Did I hear that correctly?
Through you, Chair, yeah, the example I was using was the ONPF, and this year I think it's close to $1.6 million. It can be used for virtually any municipal purpose. Some years in our capital budget, you'll see a lot of it going into roads. It could also go into, for example, our share of, say, for instance, a facility upgrade. So in 1 year, say 2024, a lot of it could have gone into roads. The next year, virtually none perhaps could go into roads. So it's just the difference between 1 year to the next.
Right, and can that go into, say, if we want to do a building, can it go into a building? Or does it have to have a specific thing that it needs to go?
Through you, Chair, yeah, the ONPF could be used for towards any sort of project that the municipality and more specifically council decides.
Well, thank you.
All right. Okay, very good. 3 minutes, sorry, I'll wrap this up quick. Yeah, sorry, just a question around, I guess it's the condition assessment page. And there was a few things, obviously said we got the road network, which is the road needs study, the facilities and under the building condition assessments, machinery, vehicles, land improvements. I think you have said that staff could we could do that internally. I understand that. I get down to water network because that's where the major asks are and that's where we're lagging. So according to this, we've assessed 0% of it. So how are we coming up with those figures if we haven't done any assessment?
Through the mayor, thank you for your question. So when we're not using formal third-party condition assessment, what we're essentially relying on is an age-based approach. So we know when the asset was purchased, we know what year it was purchased, we have the replacement cost, and then we apply a standardized estimated useful life to those assets. So for example, if it's a water main, depending on the type of material it is, it can be from anywhere from 50 to 75 years. So what we're essentially doing is just relying on the construction year, the replacement cost, and then we are deriving a condition score based on an age-based approach.
I hear you, but
completely understand that. I think that's the way most people would do it, but shouldn't. Should that number be zero? Is what I'm getting at is, it sounds like you've assessed some of it, or is there a different assessment technique that would, you know what I mean, that we're not doing that leads to this zero in terms of, because I think we would do machinery, equipment, vehicles would be the same way, wouldn't it? Staff would just basically have the years, models of the truck, and you could go on Blue Book and find out the value. So I mean, how do we do that with a water network?
Right, through the mayor. Yeah, the water network is a bit tougher in that regard. Most of the water network, in terms of replacement costs, is going to be either the water treatment plant or your underground infrastructure. So, in most cases, and in my experience, the underground infrastructure, so your water mains, those typically are not going to receive any type of formal condition assessment. Um, and the what we do, it certainly is a little surprising that it is zero, but um what we have done though is throughout the process of this project, we inquired multiple times to say, okay, are there any third-party formal condition assessments? And if there just aren't any, we've got to rely on that age-based approach. The other categories that you've mentioned, machinery and equipment, vehicles, and land improvements, although these all are also at 0%, these are all asset categories that we've got a lot of confidence in that municipal staff can start to collect over the next couple of months, right? So the folks that are driving their machinery and equipment or vehicles every day, they can provide these type of these assessments informally as well, and the asset register be updated as well. So the machinery, equipment, vehicles, and land improvements, I've got a high degree of confidence in that we can provide that staff will be able to provide some information, and better projections can be built out. The water network is a bit tougher though, because like I had mentioned, unless there is a formal condition assessment to the water treatment plant, um, or the underground infrastructure, there just really is no wiggle room to start doing any of these assessments.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Okay. All right then, so there is a recommendation here that a resolution be passed, that we pass the asset management plan and authorize it to be posted on the website. That's moved by the deputy mayor, second by Councilor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Thank you, Aaron, for your delegation.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we have a few more delegations. I just wonder if we should take a 10 minutes and then come back at 10 after, sure, 10 after.
Motion.
Okay, move by deputy mayor. Rather than talking about it all. Okay, so we are having microphone issues here, so hopefully you can hear us at the back. I'll have to speak up a little bit. Anyways, so look for a motion that we resume the meeting. Moved by Councillor Clements, second by Councillor Flagler, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, so we have another delegation here, and this delegation is with SEMA. It's Sabrina and Vince. They're online, so welcome, Sabrina. And this is with regards to the upgrades at the wastewater treatment capacity.
Morning. Is everyone able to hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right. I also have Shalyn, the project manager, joining me on the call as well this morning.
Okay.
Hi, morning. Shalin here.
Morning. Okay. So you have your presentation there, or how's it going on?
We do, and I believe I have the ability to share. Can everyone see the presentation as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So today we'll be presenting about the status of the wastewater treatment plant Phase 1 upgrades. So we previously presented to council back in March as well. So to start, we'll be going over just an overall project status update of the progress so far, We'll be discussing the capacity review update that we completed for the wastewater treatment plant. This was a request that was made by council in the March meeting. So the report has been updated and reviewed with the township with Bob, and we'll be updating you on the results this morning. We'll also provide you an update on the funding opportunities we have submitted, as those were also discussed at our last council meeting, and then give you an update on our current preliminary design discussions with the township and Aqua and the next steps in our design. So to start with a project status update, we're currently working on the preliminary design, and the overall schedule is as shown here. To complete design, we're doing a 40% now. We'll also complete a 70% and then our tender ready set. So we'll have 2 more design phases wrapping up in Q2, where we'll go to tender and be able to complete the construction phase. Completed tasks to date include a topographical survey of the wastewater treatment plant facility and subsurface utility investigation, which identifies buried utilities such as hydro or gas on the site as well. A stage 1 archaeological assessment was completed as part of the 2023 EA. There is also a natural environment report being pulled together. We have completed a survey for reptiles and protected species on site. So we did confirm this summer that there are Blandings turtles, which are part of a protected species identified by the MECP on site. So we're carrying on with the necessary requirements to ensure that that species is protected throughout the course of the work and relocated as necessary. And then we've also submitted 2 funding applications, which we'll discuss further on in our presentation, but the CHIF, which is the Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund, was submitted in March. And then the MHIP is the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, which was submitted in June of this year. So to start, I'll go over the wastewater treatment plant capacity review. So to give council a refresher and some background information, the 2023 EA that was completed by SEMA concluded that no further developments should be approved by the township at the time based on what had already been submitted to date, bringing the average rated capacity of the flows up to 90% of the treatment plant's current capacity. So it was recommended that phase 1 be completed before any further developments were approved. After some discussion with Aqua brought up at the last council meeting, it was also identified that since that EA was completed, the influent flows entering the wastewater treatment plant had reduced. So there were some improvements seen in the incoming flows due to some upgrades within the sanitary system that were completed by the township that did reduce the flows. So it was requested that we take another look at if any room for development had been created from those improvements. So what we completed then was using a method identified by the MECP called the D51 procedure. It's a calculation that can then output your uncommitted reserve capacity. So how much space is available to be used for development at the facility based on historical flows and any other units that have been committed to. So we submitted a report along with our materials for today's council meeting that goes into a little bit more detail. I'll speak to it at a high level for this presentation, and we can go into it further if there's any particular questions. But to start, we have the CU is the value that's output through this procedure that essentially takes into account the historical flows for the past 3 years. And this is, I want to stress, is based on the average rated capacity of the facility. So the average capacity of the wastewater treatment plant today is 1,200 meters cubed per day. when we were completing the EA, the historical flows were close to 900 meters cubed. But after looking at the more recent flow data and the reductions in flow, we're below 800 meters per cubed per day, based on what has been reduced. So with those calculations in mind, the procedure identifies that there's available capacity of 371 meters cubed per day that can be applied to developments. We want to note that this doesn't include what may have already been allocated to facilities such as the long-term care center, which was approved and developed. So this 371 meters cubed per day is equivalent to 235 units. And then that 235 units translates to an equivalent population of 824 people. So the long-term care center, after getting updated by the township's planning department, approved 128 persons to be constructed at the facility expansion. So that leaves 696 equivalent population that is available for development, which is equivalent to 199 units. So this 199 units says if you were to develop all of that today, it would bring you to what is currently being sent to the wastewater treatment plant, plus all of the long-term care demands. And then if you added on 199 units, it would bring you to 100% of the wastewater treatment plant capacity. So it would bring you all the way up to your 1,200 meters cubed per day of the average rated flow. So what that means is theoretically, you could go and approve 199 units of development. However, that is not what FEMA would recommend because, again, the D51 procedure assesses the capacity under average flow conditions. Although the average flows have improved due to some sanitary replacements that have been completed in the infrastructure, there's still risks today for exceeding the peak rated capacity of the plant. So to give additional background, the wastewater treatment plant has two ratings. One is the average flow rating of 1,200 meters cubed per day, and then the second is a peak rated capacity. So the wastewater treatment plant has a peak rated capacity of 3,000 meters cubed per day. Although when the EA was completed by FEMA, it was found that due to some restrictions to some of the treatment processes, the actual peak flow that can be handled is around 2,700 meters cubed per day. So when we're looking at our historical flows, we're averaging the total amount of flow that is sent to the wastewater treatment plant per day. However, throughout that day, there are flows. Say overnight, your flows will be lower, maybe we'll say at 50% capacity, 600 meters cubed per day. But during your peak flows, busy hours in the morning or in the evenings, the wastewater treatment plant flows that could be sent will exceed the 1,200 meters cubed and go into those peak flow ranges closer to 3,000 meters cubed per day. So even though when we're looking at an average, we're below what it's rated for on an average day, during a 24-hour period, the flows to the sanitary plant fluctuate. And that is where the risks of having exceedances and overflows are seen today. And that was why the recommendation for the EA was to proceed with phase one, regardless of development approvals, because once phase one is implemented, it allows the plant to hold anything that goes beyond the peak flows in a temporary lagoon. And then once the flows for those peak hours are reduced, then we're going to be able to treat that water and send it back to the wastewater treatment plant. So because our peak flows are already a risk today, we don't recommend that you approve those developments to bring you up to your 100% of your average rated capacity, because every development that you add on to hit that rated average capacity will add more flows during those peak hours. So with that in mind, we recommend that prior to your phase one upgrades or while they're being completed at this time, you could approve 76 units, which is around maybe 10% of your capacity, to get some developments moving while phase one is in place. And then the remaining 123 units can be approved once phase one is complete. And then phase two is still triggered whenever you reach 90% of your total plant capacity. So whenever somewhere along that 123 units of development, as those developments come in and get approved, then you would want to trigger an expansion to your wastewater treatment plant before you reach the full capacity of the current limits. So I'll note that the 76 units does not include maybe some development reviews that have been submitted to date but are on hold. So it should be considered that anything aside from the long-term care center can be reviewed in the 76 units for approval while phase one is completed. And before we move on to the funding applications phase, I'll just open up to council any questions about the capacity review topic at this time.
Council got any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Doherty.
Through your chair, the question I have is, what is the Havelock South development that was mentioned in one of the reports there that it's either on hold or something now? What is that?
Yes, I'll open that. So the Havelock South development is referring to wording that is used or was used in the SEMA EA. So in the report, and I'm not sure if you can see that I'm sharing the report now. So this table summary is what was considered and named the Havelock South developments in the 2023 EA. So in completing this new review, we wanted to make sure that we were still looking at the same listed developments. So it included the Smith Drive phases 1 to 3, the long-term care facility, and the future proposed expansion to the Peterborough housing developments. So I will note, even here since the EA, at the time the EA was completed, the total population for these developments was 641 persons. And then more recently, in going through the funding application process this year and speaking with planning, that number has come down quite a bit, either from modifications to the numbers for those developments, or just from some of those applications not actually continuing to be received or followed through by the developer. So at the time of the EA, we had included all of these as expected incoming development, which brought us to essentially 90% capacity, where we said you really shouldn't approve any further developments beyond this point. But because this number has gone down, Smith Drive phase 1 has already been constructed, and these flows were included in the historical flow data. So we really only added on the long-term care facility as us being known that it had already been approved and under construction. So as far as we're aware, there's approximately 24 units that could potentially be approved for an application that's waiting for the expansion of the Peterborough housing development under what we're referring to as the Havelock South Plan developments.
Okay. Any other questions?
So the Havelock South project, is that on hold then, or is in the figures or not in the figures? And have they reissued building permits for those? I'm a little confused. I don't even know what it is, to be honest with you. 24 more units than we have there because we already have community.
It's the quads.
It's the quads that they didn't do.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
was,
my
24
understanding.
units and quads?
yes,
Well, there was 2 quads.
2
There's
times
only 8.
12, wasn't it?
There was 4 units in each, so it's only 8.
that number anyways, whatever, that, I think that's where, yeah, the number might be a little bit off in terms of that, but I think it's long-term care and then Smith Drive and then what else was up there? housing, Smith Drive, phase one, housing development, long-term care. So that would just be figured into what they have now, I believe.
Right. So we wanted to compare directly to what was stated in the EA, which is why we included the same list of developments. Since the EA's completion, Smith Drive Phase 1 has been constructed. 2 and 3 are not considered to be units that could come forward based on our discussions with planning. The long-term care facility was approved, so we did pull that number into what's already been allocated out of this value here, the 235 units. We did subtract the long-term care and reduce that to 199 units based on the long-term care already being approved and constructed. So this 199 units is broken down into then 76 units, which you could do while phase 1 is being constructed, and then 123 units after phase 1's construction. And then that one, or those 76 units or 123 combined, does not include the 24 units that would be included in the proposed Peterborough housing development expansion. So if you did want to then go ahead and say, okay, we're going to approve those 24 units, your 76 units to date would reduce to 52. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, and those numbers, we'd have to pick some up a little bit because it is only 12 units, I think. It was 2 quads, so but anyways, that's there is a little bit of capacity there if we want to go. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, you had do you want to carry on with the grant?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So moving on to the funding opportunities. So when we last discussed with council in March, we were aware of the CHIF opportunity and were approved to move forward, and we are waiting on the submission deadline for the MHIP to be released. But since then, we have applied to both funding opportunities. So the CHIF allowed funding for eligible products up to 50% of the eligible costs. So we submitted that in March of 2025, and based on the capital cost estimation for this project, which is around 5.4 million in capital, we submitted funding for the value stated 2.7 million in funding. And then the MHIP allows up to 73% of eligible project costs. So that value for requested funding, we did submit for the 4.1. So I do note that combined, if we were approved for both, they won't go beyond the eligible project costs. So they are aware that we've applied to multiple funding opportunities. So then if they do approve us for both, we won't see the full project costs, and they also might not go up to the full amount requested. But in the event that we are only approved for one, then we could get, perhaps depending on which application is approved, a higher amount from one versus the other. At this time, we don't have any updates on the responses if we have been approved for either of these funding applications. The funding opportunity websites don't identify a timeline in which you will receive a response, but it does confirm that you will hear if you are successful or not. So at the moment, this is the status of the funding opportunities, and we're still awaiting to hear back.
Questions with regards to that? I think it's all a waiting game. Once it comes to a grant, you never know. So, and it'd be pretty hard to do without the grant. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, so we'll keep council up to date on the status of the funding opportunities as we hear. And then I'll pass things over to Shalin, who will just run through the current status of our preliminary design concept, just to keep everyone in the loop of what we have planned and have discussed with Aqua and the township.
Should I request the control for the presentation?
I can flip through for you if you just let me know.
Yeah, okay. Yep, I need the control.
I don't think I can grant you control, Shalin. You can just ask me to flip through the slide when you're done.
Okay. So, thanks everyone. Thanks, Sabrina, for the capacity review assessment and the discussion of funding opportunity. So, let us quickly route to the 40% preliminary design concept package. So, I hope everyone can see the full screen right now. Okay. So, there will be a proposed diversion chamber. So what happens is in the event of peak weather conditions, there will be a modulating gate in this diversion chamber, and based on the water level inside the diversion chamber, uh, the 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 excess water, excess untreated sewage is planned to route to this area into the repurposed lagoon area. So this is basically, in line with ESR study report, in which we mentioned that during the preliminary design, conceptual design, we are going to repurpose one of the abandoned lagoon. So then there will be a pumping station over here somewhere else. And by the way, this location is tentative, so we can formalize and finalize these locations after the 40% design package. But right now, there could be a pumping station somewhere here through which, using the pumps and force main, we can send back the untreated sewage into the existing raw sewage pumping station when the peak weather event really over, and when there is a low flow condition. And there will be an extra overflow line to the lagoon from the raw sewage pumping station to make sure we never ever really overflow any untreated sewage into the final discharge after we implement the phase 1 of this Havelock project. Let's move to the next slide, Sabrina. Yeah. So this is a rough estimation of required equalization volume based on the 2019 and based on the 2023 worst case scenario. And we have estimated maximum 45,000 of the equalization volume required to really capture the any sort of high peak weather events based on the historical data. But we have received 5-minute data for the historical, and we can still drill down into this volume to make it lower to ensure that we can reduce the repurpose cost from the lagoon side. Next to the next slide. Yeah. So this is existing hydraulic profile, in which why we are discussing today. It's very important and critical. I'll explain you why. You see the highlighted high water level, which is 210.5. So the idea is to keep the working highest water level inside the lagoon lower than this amount, in order to prevent the backflow from the repurposed lagoon into the raw sewage pumping station. Let's go to the next slide so I can really give the context so everyone can understand why we are discussing this today. So during this 40% design, what we found is this is the level 209.5, which is from the as-built drawing, and that is the lowest elevation inside the lagoon on the other side of the lagoon. And this one is the topmost 212, which is the highest level. So if I'm going to calculate based on the environmental and compliance of approval, the working depth inside the lagoon is 1.83 meter. But when I'm going to add this 8.3 meter into 209.5, that will become 211.33 for the high water level inside the repurposed lagoon, which we don't want in order to prevent the backflow from lagoon into the raw sewage pumping station. So that's the reason we are discussing that after implementation of phase one, the highest water level inside the lagoon would be 210.5 to keep the gravity from manhole 5 to cell number 2. And that's the reason 210.5 is the effective water level once we are done with the phase one implementation. Let's move to the next slide. And along with Aqua, we are in discussion with several pumping station configuration. There will be a different configuration based on the location of the pumping station inside the repurposed lagoon. There will be two different options. Option number A would be in-ground wall chamber, and there would be another option in which there will be an above ground grade wall manifold. So these two are both the different pumping station locations, and based on the final location of the pumping station, each one has their own pros and cons. For example, if we came up with an idea with the repurposed lagoon which has a berm, then to give the access, the whole pumping station has to be under the berm to really move the vehicles and everything. So in that case, option number A would be preferable option. And just pretend one hypothetical scenario in which if we finalize the location of the pumping station at the corner of the lagoon, then we can have the wall arrangement and the manifold, everything outside of the pumping station. So it all depends. So these are the things we are in line, and we are concluding with Aqua and Township right now, and hopefully we'll able to submit 40% design package by next month. And next slide, Sabrina. Okay. And so for us, the next steps would be to lock the gravity force main routing, then the sizing of those lines. And we recently received the 5-minute data. Based on that, we can come up with equalization volume. And this has been discussed last week. So we got 1 week, and we already came out with the number of 25,000 of equalization volume. So we can finalize these 40% design package with that volumes, but still we are in discussion with Aqua and Township, and there is a multiple email exchanges in between us. And the next step would be finalization of 40% design package. And as I mentioned earlier, we can send the formal 40% package along with PDR next month. Thank you all. I think we are done with this presentation, and question is any questions?
Yeah, okay, I'll open up to council. Is there any questions with regards to this? There's some good news in there if you want to.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for your presentation. Just for clarification, I think you said it a few times, it's in the report a couple of times, but in terms of our capacity and where we stand now, so as of now, we could add, I think you said 76 homes before the work, and then once the work is done, it would be another 123 on top of that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you for coming today. It's something that we've been waiting to hear anyways, to see where it's at. We've kind of been playing a guessing thing. So thank you for this today. So with that, I'll just look for a motion that we receive the delegation.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Clement, second by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you.
For your time this morning.
All right. The next delegation is Aqua. I don't know who's coming up. I got Amy and Amber listed here. Almost good afternoon.
Almost. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having us here again today and council. So I'm going to go over our proposal for the renewal of the contract. Before I begin that, though, I would like to do a brief overview of Aqua for anyone who's watching who may not know Aqua very well. So we are very proud to be the largest provider of water and wastewater services in Ontario. We currently have over 230 clients, most of which are municipal, but also include some commercial and industrial, First Nations, and government facilities such as schools and parks. We operate over 1,000 facilities across the province of Ontario and provide a total solutions option for our clients. We operate on a shared services model, which allows us to share staff across a geographical small region, which we call a cluster, as well as purchase goods and services in bulk and pass those economies of scale on to our municipal partners. As a provincial government agency, we do want to make clear that our mandate is to recover the full cost of operations for each facility that we operate. This allows us to ensure the sustainability of Aqua for the future. And I also want noted is that we are deemed an essential service, which allows us to deliver continued services in the event of a labor disruption. And the final thing is, unlike many of our competitors, all of the equity stays within the province of Ontario. So moving on to our proposal, currently Aqua operates the Havelock-Belmont-Methuen's water and wastewater treatment systems, and we support the township staff in the operations of your distribution and collection systems. The current agreement term expires on December 31st. So we are here to propose a renewal term of 4 years beginning on January 1st, 2026, with the option to extend for an additional 2-year term at the end of the initial 4 years. The reason for that is to avoid having to negotiate and for council to make a decision in an election year, which sometimes proves to be a bit of a challenge with time constraints. So an initial 4 years allows us to just extend for an additional 2 years beyond the election if the next council wants to change their mind about their services. Over the past 5 years, the annual price has been adjusted by a fixed 2% increase year over year. Due to the effects of the pandemic on materials and other supplies, and the 2% did not keep up with the cost of operating the facilities and Aqua being able to recover our costs in full. So we are now requesting a price adjustment of 17% over the 2025 price. Some of the cost categories that were significantly impacted include the following. So the first item was the salaries and benefits. The first increase under that category was the repeal of Bill 124, which was an Ontario law that capped public service wages increases at 1% annually for 3 years. The bill was repealed in February of 2024 after court rulings found it violated the Canadian Charter of Rights. As a result, operators received a 9.5% increase to cover the previous 3-year term. We have also included additional labor for the township's distribution services. Historically, the township had its own licensed operator for water distribution, but that person has since left. Aqua has been providing the services without receiving financial compensation for a bit of time, and we are, as we are required to recover the cost of operation, we have now added those hours into our proposed price. Also affecting the salaries and benefits was the new Consolidated Linear Infrastructure Approval Program that the MECP put in place in 2023. Which applied to both the township's collection system as well as your stormwater system. There are new requirements for the operations and maintenance of these systems, and we have included additional labor to perform some of these services in conjunction with township staff. The second cost category affected was chemicals. Since the pandemic, Aqua has seen an overall increase of approximately 80% in chemical prices due to higher transportation costs, raw materials, and supply chain issues. For the township specifically, there has been approximately a 43% increase in the cost of chemicals since 2021 as a result of these market increases. Other factors that affected the price included insurance premiums, biosolids haulage, fuel and vehicle expenses, as well as general market increases over everyday items such as health and safety, supplies, cleaning supplies, and office supplies, and many other things. So we've included a small increase for those items. And finally, we are requesting one other change in the agreement, and that is regarding the annual adjustment. As previously mentioned, the fixed 2% annual increases didn't keep up with the market over the last 5 years. So we propose to return to the Consumer Price Index, all items Ontario, which was used in the agreements previous to the current one that we have. So that concludes the summary of our proposal. Are there any questions?
Okay, any questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Yeah, so basically it comes down, you do a great job, and you know, as much as we hate to see increases, it seems to be things that are happening right across the board. So for today, I think what we're looking for is the council's thoughts on this, and
Sorry, are we dealing with
there'll be the other things as a separate.
the well?
Yeah,
Maybe
it's already
separate.
separate,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
just the contract right now, if we could speak to that.
Yeah, and no, just through Mr. Mayor, just a kind of a question or anything, I guess. I was in meeting with our treasurer in terms of the costs, in terms of what we pay, not just you Aqua, but what our cost is in terms of running the 3 or however many wells we have. He informed me that you guys have most of that information. Later, we're getting into a part here where we're kind of exploring maybe new wells and whatnot. So I was wondering if you guys could maybe go back and kind of get together those numbers for us in terms of, you know, I think we know what we're going to be paying you, especially if we do this new contract today. But what's our actual cost over at well 1 and 4, and definitely well 3, in terms of what we're putting into that each year, you know, over like year over year. Because if we want to move it in a different direction, which we're looking at in terms of maybe getting another well, I would like to know, you know, how much these wells are costing us, because I think at least 1 or 2 of them are costing us dearly. So maybe we can take them offline and bring another well online. As I said, our treasurer said that you guys have those numbers, not us. So if I could maybe have you get them back to our staff so we could have a look at them.
Yes.
Something we could do.
Yeah, that is something we do.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so for today, the contract renewal, what's council's thoughts there? We'd be looking for a motion that we, Councilor Doherty, go ahead.
A question, 4 plus 2, are the 2 of the same terms as the 4? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Councilor Clement,
So through you, Mayor Martin, I'll make a motion that we accepted the contract with the 4 and the 2.
okay, moved by Councilor Clement, the seconder. Seconding. Okay, any other questions? All in favor? And that's carried. So. Okay. Amber, I guess the well sighting investigation, the active update, that's your daily book.
Okay, so thanks for meeting for us today, and thank you for MA for speaking on my behalf. I'm glad that you're here to do all that. A lot going on there that I'm glad I don't have. Yes, as I said, so as MA said, Aqua's been working with the Township of Havelock for many years, and over the past several years, we've had a battle with one of the existing wells, which is well 3. It's been in inception before my start with Aqua, and we've had a battle with it ever since. It has high iron manganese, and it is an issue when it comes to running the well. As the township is probably aware, this year we've had to run this well quite a bit. It is a backup well, nothing that we don't have to utilize unless we're in a drought situation, which is something that has been taking place in Havelock since July, I believe. We still are in a level 3 drought, and I do support the Crow Valley Conservation Authority for keeping the drought condition, the low water condition in state. I will speak about the aquifer and kind of interchangeably with the new well exploration. So when we were looking at the aquifer levels, we're monitoring them at a minimum 3 times a week, just because well 1 and 4 is getting to a low level state. It has been in a low level state for over 3 months now. It's causing concern, and thank you to the township and the township staff, as well as the public for reducing your unnecessary water use. Currently, the well 1 and well 4 system, right now, well 4 is sitting at 3.8 meters above the pump, and well 1 is sitting 4.22 meters above the pump. When we say meters above the pump, it's best to keep 3 meters above. So you can keep in mind that well 4 is only 0.8 meters above potential. I just lost the word, but it's basically the cyclone effect where you might be able to suck air. Thankfully, operations are very experienced because we've been in your system for so long that Jordan and Brad and Aaron as well have been able to operate well 3. So we've been using the wells interchangeably. We're splitting the flow that we would use at well 1 and 4. If we didn't have well 3 and stay right now, we actually are fairly confident that the well 1 and 4 system would be dry starting September. So I understand that the water's not that great, the brown, and thank you for your patience, but a little bit of tint in the water is better than no water. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so then moving on to the well exploration and the need for finding another viable groundwater source. You'll remember probably 2 or 3 years ago, we had brought cambium to the council chambers. And we've been working with cambium for probably 2 or 3 years now. The hydrogeology scientists that we've been, or I always call them scientists, sorry, hydrogeologists that we've been working with if you'll remember, had noticed that there was a potential for an esker just north of the water tower. An esker is basically a very deep groove into the ground, and it could potentially be an underwater lake aquifer. Norwood actually uses this esker as well for their municipal use. So when we had submitted a request for bid with cambium to start to select groundwater, basically pointing in that area to a site that should be drilled, the hydro-G that we had been working with had moved on from cambium. And I wasn't able to render his services outside of cambium because he actually had completely left the country and he's working somewhere else. So I've asked cambium if they could provide another hydro-G to take over his work. The delays, unfortunately, with him to be brought up to speed was going to be quite costly. So, and cause a delay. So the best I could do was pivot. So before you have a well exploration project. Sorry, I don't want to voice trip in so much. I'm not nervous. So this company is called Canada Minerals. They're actually a willow stick company from the States. They use 2 radars, more or less, that do ground penetration, and they are able to cite the potential for an aquifer in the area. You'll note in page 2, I have a green and a purple, green or pink, I guess, outline. These are township property that is owned by the township, and they actually started today. So they are right now on site just doing their study for the green and the purple areas. And you'll note in the, I was going to say the page, but I lost it. So you'll note in the report that they use 2 radars. One is a radio and a gamma, and then a microseismic. They can go and penetrate as deep as 3,000 feet. Their reports and their successes have been kind of, oh, thank you.
It's up there now.
Yes, thank you. I just lost the page number that I was trying to speak to. So on page 3, there's an example of their equipment. They go about 15 feet, I believe, in a grid shaped form. Figure 3 shows an example of one of the sites that they ended up locating. It was about 140 meters deep. And it says that they received a water up to 2,800 gallons, which was around 176 liters per second. Just to put that in perspective, 176 liters per second is a very high pump. The well 1 and 4 pumps right now only do about 10 liters a second and 15. So if you ended up with 176 liters per second, you might have some other townships knocking on those doors. That's happened. But ultimately, what we are trying to look for is something that's in the 17 liter per second range. So they're on site today. They just started, Aqua just met them. This was part of already the capital submission that we had for groundwater exploration. You'll notice that the cost is 26,000. I do have 150 sitting in the capital proposal for 2026. I won't be using that. I won't be able to use that unless we have a really warm winter. And then maybe I could move to a test well, but right now I'm not sure how far I'll get just because of the delays with Cambium. And it's not their fault. I shouldn't say delays with Cambium, but delays with expertise. So I'm hoping that within a month or so, I'll come back with a report with the Canadian Minerals Company. Their reports are very thorough and very colorful, as you'll see in the page 4 there. It shows everything that when they see water and when they don't see water. I don't feel confident to speak to that, so I'm going to ask them to come back and do their full report. That's it. Sorry, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, any questions around that?
Oh, sorry, just for clarification, in the report there, you gave the cost, it was somewhere around 26,000, but I think in the next paragraph, there was a patient that said that if we had it all done at once, that there could be a discount of 8,000. Does that still apply?
Yeah, sorry, that's correct. There, when we originally got the quote, they usually provide the cost at 500 an acre. We were able, this is US, we were able to get it down to 350 an acre. There isn't an aqua fee attached to that, which I didn't actually, I can't calculate quick, but yeah, it's all done at one sitting, which is my plan, and it should be done by this week, that you'll have a $8,000 savings. Thank you.
Just that would be the 26 minus 8, so 18 would be the total cost of what we're looking at then. And then plus Aqua's fee.
Correct, that's how I see it, yeah, but I'll double check if
Thank you. Yeah.
Councilor Doherty?
Through you, Chair. Came in, the work that we've had done, we didn't pay anything for that.
You did pay up to the draft report, but you don't believe paid for the final and the presentation. So we have a draft report for the well 3 system.
So when we employ Camion, we don't employ Camion, we employ one of their employees. Because I'm confused, when we employ a company and they have staff changeover, this affects us, as you indicate, in a negative way. But so how do we protect ourselves? When we deal with a company, you think you're dealing with the company as opposed to an individual. How do we protect ourselves in the future, I guess?
Yeah, I don't want to throw any negatives on Cambium. They were a fantastic company, and the gentleman that I was working with did a fantastic job. Just unfortunately, for some reason, they had split. So when I had asked for the proposal from the hydrogeologist, I reviewed it. I was going to approve it. I wrote back saying I'm approving the project to proceed, and I got his out of office. So when I did reach back out to Cambium, they were very willing to bring somebody on board to take over that work. But there is a lot of bringing somebody up to speed after 3 years. And I just felt, I guess I stood by a decision that maybe it was going to take too much time and potentially at a cost, which I knew there was going to be a cost, but I just didn't want to add on as in duplicating effort. I don't know how to protect us from somebody leaving, but I think if we did choose to revisit that and have the duplication of effort, it would have been very fast on our end because we had already provided the data, so we could easily just forward that to them and then hopefully request maybe a shorter review. I'm not sure, sorry.
Well, I'm not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that they're not competent in what they did. I'm just saying when you employ a company, you employ a company. You don't I mean, they provide an individual to your account. I assume there's succession planning in their business, but obviously that's not the case with came in at the moment anyway, or it was going to cost somebody a lot of money. Anyway, thank you.
Did it sell, Amber? Like it's changed hands, is it not? Is that where it's?
I'm not sure, I don't know that, sorry, we work with PMBM all the time, actually, Aqua still does in the cluster I'm in now, but I'm not sure about the name change.
Yeah. Okay.
Good questions. Amber, just for clarity on the 18,000, this was in your budget last year, I believe, right? This expense has been accounted for?
This expense has been accounted for this year.
Okay.
It was, I believe it was like capital item number 13, 14, or 15, and it was to take one or the other, not both.
Okay.
All right. So a lot to it. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna make a motion
Yeah.
that we approve the recommendation for the drilling.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Flagler. That we approved the well.
Thank you for your time, and I hope to come back with some positive news.
Okay, all in favor of the motion? Thank you. Okay,
We got through it.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Next item is on here, we have staff reports for information, 5 of them there. We have the federal budget update. One time of printing. Yeah. Update. Department. Is there anything there anybody wishes to speak about?
Oh, yeah, just a comment. I'd like to, just on the report about the budget, Mr. Mayor. Thank the treasurer for this report, quite detailed. Saves me reading the paper, Lionel, so. Thank you for laying all this out in a nice, easy way to look at. But I've kind of glanced into, it's gonna I think the rest of council will read the report, have a look at it. Remember, there's a lot of programs here that I think HBM could be eligible for in different projects, so if all council maybe has a look at it, I was just gonna ask the CAO as well. In terms of his staff, I know this is a new kind of document here, so. As staff or is staff planning to meet in terms of, addressing kind of all these grants and seeing what opportunities there are for HBM? Because I think Lionel's got, you got 30 or 40 listed here, so I gotta figure there's 5 or 10 that we could.
Management team's meeting tomorrow.
Any other questions around the information items? So the motion would be that we receive all the information.
Oh, sorry, I have one. Is that Crow Valley in with the information section?
No.
Oh, okay, it's separate. Okay, no, fine, thanks.
Okay. All right then, so it's moved by Kathy, second by Mark, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay,
Thanks, Lionel.
next one here is the staff report, follow-up action versus Waste Connection, Peter Lawson, Public Works.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor Martin, members of council. The purpose of this report today is to seek council's approval to enter a contract with Waste Connections of Canada for waste collection services for 2025, 2026, and a month-to-month extension for 2027.
Okay, and so this thing is changing like crazy, like not the contract, but I do see flexibility in there if something changes after the new year, so. But for today, the recommendations before you. Moved by Councillor Clement. Seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Webb. Okay, any questions about that?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. The cost is they're up, right? The cost up. What are they up over last year? Because in one report we got, I guess, a couple of meetings ago, we had like $164 a ton. It was that Peter were charging us. This is 200 and 82, or is that just, one is Ben and one is Tone, so what's the,
So through you, Mayor Meyer, so this is Waste Connections. So this contract is for curbside pickup and for hauling our bins. So this is just strictly increase on our bin, what they charge us to come pick our bin, take it to Bensford and bring it back. So.
and what was the cost last year? What is it up?
5%.
5%, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Everything is up 5%, that's cost, Jacks.
Across the board, yep. Across the
And
board.
that's just for the 1 year, or is that, can they change that month to month?
That's the 5%. That's
Across, okay, thank you.
Do we have a mover and a seconder on that? Any other questions? All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Weird. The next is updates, final. So we've actually kind of.
Yeah, we've seen the presentation. It's just, this is a motion to adopt the plan.
Is that? Kathy, Bev? Sure. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, Lionel, that would be.
Don't talk so much.
Yeah. So the emergency management plan. Let's do. The yearly update.
I'll just make a motion to receive or approve, or where we. I have a question.
There's a bylaw later for approval.
Okay.
But we approved the plan.
So I'll just make a motion to approve. I have a question about something, but I'll deal with that later with staff.
Okay.
I know what your question
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
That's fine.
Everybody
We'll address
We
it.
won't deal with that now. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
So what's the you?
Motion to
you're
approve,
moving
yeah,
the recommend- And second by Councilor Clement.
What are we approving?
The emergency management plan to be submitted to the province. That's an annual thing.
Every year.
Under emergency management?
That's
Is that what
right.
you're talking about?
Emergency management.
Okay.
That's
So of
the
course,
plan.
we're gonna fix the series. Because you got her on.
Yeah, we'll have to.
There is an alternate there and it will default to the alternate. We can-
Leslie, okay.
Yeah, and we
Okay.
can appoint someone else if you wish right now.
No, that's fine, Bob. No, that's fine.
Okay, so it's.
I apologize. I should have said that. I just didn't want to mention the name.
Yeah. Okay, so it's moved and seconded. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, and the next item on here is the Old Town Hall with regards to the repairs, additional repairs. Bob, is it you or Josh?
So through you, Mayor Martin, this is, as discussed earlier, when Mr. Mortlock was in the room, this is the repairs for the accessible door off of the accessible ramp. And council to make a choice on the ceiling repair between the drywall or tonguing roof.
To get through you, I'll make a motion that we approve the first one. Sorry. The ramp, I guess. And then on option 2, for number 2 groove.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So
the one is for drive 1987.
Yeah.
Obviously more expensive, 898. I'm in terms of exactly the historical of this building, and if that's what we're going to as, right? I think it kind of something that at least pertains to what the original look was, rather than just throwing a drywall that would be from a newer building. So, but that's
okay. Councilor Norton, go ahead.
I don't even know seconder. Because when you have to discuss.
Okay, if somebody would want to second that, and then we can discuss it.
It's tongue and groove.
Yeah, you're seconding the motion, and now Councilor Doherty.
My question is it the door part of it will be required before we can open?
Through you, Mayor Martin, not necessarily. This can be done after the abatement work and the mezzanine work is complete. We can open after those 2 items are done.
this will be immediately following.
I just don't understand why we're approving it now, but it more fits more into the budget category because we haven't budgeted for it. That I'm aware of, but maybe I just missed it, but that's okay, just my opinion.
Through you, Mayor Martin, this is an effort to keep this project moving along. We have budgeted amounts for this earlier in the year. There's money there that we can use for these items.
Okay. And it's just to keep it going.
Yeah.
So it's important that we keep things moving. And if there is monies there allocated probably for like a general slush fund that you're pulling it from.
We approved 70,000 and then an earlier 90,000.
Okay. All right. Okay, so it's coming from that. So
Sorry, just further to the point that you made when the delegations were here, do we have timeframes on any of this? Like I know that 8 to 10 weeks was thrown out in the presentation, but I mean, say this here, is this happening right away or does this have to wait till the other stuff gets done?
No, if we approve it today, I will ask them to commence as soon as they can.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right, so we have a mover and a seconder for this. All in favor of the motion, and that's carried. Okay. The next item on here is correspondence action item, and that's with regards to the letter from the Lions and Ken Pierce. We kind of dealt with that, like as far as I think we have an answer for them, and hopefully the communication part of it will open up and they'll understand the whole process, because right now they have this November date that we don't know where it came from. So Councillor Doherty, go ahead.
What, so you said we've agreed to the dates? Is that what I heard now?
No, the Mortlock and the communication thing, they're gonna talk to the Lions and do a better communication thing. And they'll come up with a date. They are working towards an earlier timeline right now. It is showing
January, you said? You said January.
September for the
Next year.
for the Lions Hall. And he said they will try to, so there is some things around it with accessibility and things like that and other, excuse me, other spaces that they could use.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin, council has approved waiving of the rent for the Lions Club, and that will continue until they're able to go in and use the facility. We will be working with our partners on the project, and we will be in communication with the Lions Club. So any events they have, we're happy to work with them within the confines of the law and what can happen over there. So we'll make space for them if we can.
So at this time, if more, like I say, it sounds like a communication thing, and we're all trying to do the same thing. We know we're short of space. We know that people are inconvenienced, and it sounds like we're going to do our best to try and help them within reason. So, okay. So I think that's been dealt with. And do you need any motion? Do you have a motion to receive that letter? Moved by Councillor Clement. Do we receive the letter? Second by Councillor Flagler. All in favor? That's carried. Okay then. And we don't have any correspondence for information. So we're going to move right into committee liaison reports. And the county council update. Did you have anything that you wanted to bring out today?
Just quickly, we had the draft of the county budget at our last meeting, so I'll just throw that out there, and hopefully at our either next meeting or before Christmas here, I'll give a more detailed report because we're still obviously in the process of finalizing it. So original drafts that's come out, tax levy increase for the county, Peterborough County will be 5.4. The tax rate increase 4.09. That's where we are now. It's, as I said, it's not been finalized. That equates to roughly a $62 increase for the average assessed home price of $344,000. And I'll have final numbers for you. Hopefully, well, maybe it'll be after Christmas.
I think it'll be before.
Maybe before Christmas, maybe after. But as soon as I get them, I'll bring you the final numbers. So, and I'll also bring a report because on the capital projects, which people are probably more interested in than that. Capital projects the county will be doing from now, I believe, till 29 or 30. So I'll have those listed in the amount of money for everybody to look at in terms of what the county's contribution will be towards those projects. So.
And it is pretty impressive, some of the numbers for Havelock-Belmont.
Yeah.
There's millions of dollars coming into the.
Awesome.
So
any
comments or questions?
Stay strong.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then, thanks, Art.
Yeah.
So next is liaison reports, and Councillor Clements, you had the library board meeting minutes. I don't know if anybody has any questions around them.
I just have one
Yeah.
through you, Mayor Martin. I know I was reading your report and many times it was mentioned how you're recycling in there. Now, is that recycled from a pop can or is that recycling from a box?
No, through you, Mayor Martin. So we're doing some recycling. We're doing the pens, the same as we are here. We're going to continue that. We are recycling some outdated books. We're working our way through. It's a huge process. We've got a lot of duplicates between here and Cordova. So we're culling all the books. We're taking them out. They have to be taken out of the system, which is a long process. But we've got people. So your soft cover ones are great because they can, everything gets recycled. Hardcover, we have to tear apart.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. It's an ongoing process. We've got some, good work coming up in the new year. And I'll have another report after our meeting this Thursday, hopefully.
Good. And are they going to continue with the constant
Absolutely.
books?
Absolutely.
Because that is the library's.
Yes, we're bringing in a new policy as to how often we need to.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
great.
Okay.
That's a good one.
So the next is the county detachment board.
Budget. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is just the budget for the police services board, excuse me. It needs to be brought to, the reason you're seeing it is that it needs to be brought to every council to be approved before it can go through. So here it is. Comments, questions. One thing, I think in the report, it's laid out. Sorry, I don't have that. What's the number in terms of our ask this year?
So the amount is $5,865.86.
Yes,
It'll be offset by a refund of $2,500 to $3,000.
So exactly, and just for clarity on that, as I said, so this year, all right, what we'll be paying is 5,800 less and the number hasn't been calculated, is we had a surplus last year. So as I think I told you, council, this meeting or two ago, there'll be a refund to each township somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000. That exact number we don't have. So our commitment will be the 5,800 minus whatever we get from them. So I'm hoping it'll be somewhere in around a little over 3,000, I think, by the time we're done. So it'll be substantially less than 8,500 we committed last year. So I think the board is doing at least a good job on that in terms of costs down at the moment. So we'll see where it goes from there.
What do you?
I just need, so I do need a motion to accept it, approve this police services board budget. So I'd like somebody other than me to make the motion.
Yeah.
So
Did you make that, Jerry?
I did.
All right.
Thank you.
Second by Catherine. Okay, all in favor? That's carried. So next, there's the CBCA, Jerry, and did you have some questions around these?
Well, yeah, but do they have their budget yet?
No,
No indication at all?
No, we're just starting this week. To Thursday, we're starting. And with this other stuff that's on here, I have a meeting at 2:00 that I have to go to around the boundaries and this new thing that the province is bringing in. So I'm registered to go into that at 2:00.
I'll save my question for after the meeting.
Sure. Okay, so that's, it's kind of premature. The big thing is there was a big thing with the province and they're amalgamating like 35 CAs into 7. And then that's what I suspect the meeting is today that I signed into is an update on that. So, and then at our meeting on Thursday, I'm sure this will be the topic of discussion. So anyways. Yeah.
To you, Mayor Martin, could you just explain what you just said?
Okay, so-
Like,
So right now, there's 35
thank you.
conservation authorities in
Okay.
Ontario. The province is knocking that down. They're going to merge a bunch together to make 7, I think it's looking like. We haven't seen the official thing, but it sounds like it's 7 CAs there will be, conservation authorities. And they've been playing with conservation authorities for a few years now, and there's been talk of this. It'll be interesting to see how it falls out, but I really don't know a lot on it right yet.
Okay.
I hope I'm really educated after this afternoon's meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been just kind of guessing because it came so fast. Yeah, we were going through the process of a new
I noticed they don't like to use the word amalgamation.
yeah.
No, really, right?
Yeah.
In terms of what they're doing, but they won't use that word, so.
So we talked about it years ago, the CA, Crow Valley and Quinty, we talked about merging together. It fell through as a voluntary thing. Now it's not voluntary. The province is going to tell us like they do with everything else. Everything we deal with is the province tells us what to do. We just say yes.
And through you, Mayor Martin, we don't know yet what will happen with Grove Valley. That hopefully will come today. We don't know that.
Yeah. Because we got different tentacles in there because for source water protection is done through autonomy. So hopefully they're together if they're going to be. But I have no idea. Okay.
Let's hope it turns out to be a good thing.
Yeah, that's right. So for today's liaison reports, it would be just a motion that we received the reports. So moved by Art, second by Kathy. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, so written or oral notice of motion. I don't have anything before me. So we're gonna move into other business. And Art, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just quickly, something. We're always getting calls in terms of road safety, speed along the highways, whatnot. We obviously got a speed sign all over our township and trying to help control some of these problems. One thing that came out of the Police Services Board meeting a couple of weeks ago is OSM set up what is called a community safety zone, and they're kind of piggybacking off of North Kawartha, which did it, I believe, on County Road 28 up there where they had a lot of accidents. So basically what it is it's a designation to designate a section of road somewhere in our municipality where we would like to slow traffic down. So anywhere, what I'm thinking is more on the east side of town where we have multiple accidents. I think we've had a few fatalities out there in the last 4 or 5 years. The reason that I'm kind of intrigued about it is it's kind of low cost, and I don't hate to throw the word easy around in municipal politics, but it seems like it might not be a lot of task work for our staff either. Basically, the gist of it is, and the motion, what I'm looking for today, sorry to be all over the map here. Basically, what I'm looking for is a motion just to start the process to instruct staff to, as I said, begin the process, maybe reach out to OSM as well as North Kawartha in terms of the steps we have to do to start this process, then bring a report back to council just to lay it out what's there before we decide if this is the road we really want to go down. The end result of it all, of it being is basically if we got okayed, whatever we would designate a part of the highway or whatever road it was in our township, that would be approved by the province, and then any speed fine or any fine, I think, not just speed fine, but any fine committed in those areas are automatically doubled by the OPP. So as I said, it's not a real cost to us as a municipality, but in terms of slowing traffic down, just experience, maybe it need to I know that, yeah, the few areas where I've got tickets, when I return to those, especially if it was ever a double ticket, luckily I've never got one of those, I would definitely be slowing down. As I referred at the start, we've seen a number of smaller things where we run the black cat around and different things, right? And they all work in their own little way. But I think too that if there's a little teeth to it and some of these fines were a little stiffer, that we might get more results too. So all, as they said, basically have to bring us back a report. We have more information and we can make a better on if we want with.
Moving that, or repeat it again.
No.
You don't want to.
I'm gonna make a motion. Morning, I was having coffee and I watched two people through the on number 7 highway. And those kids, like, that's something's gonna happen. And I think the kicking link, anyway, this is a great thing for us to be able to participate in. So yes, I passed the motion to start.
Passing or making a motion?
Great.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, through you, Mayor Martin. This all sounds honky dory. I think it's rude. Is police gonna, like, are you going to advertise this? That if you get a ticket between here, and Armor, it's a double speed fine, correct?
Yeah.
Like, this is all open transparency. How much does it cost to get a cop up here to do those tickets?
Well, they would.
Is that an extra charge?
No, it would be part of the normal. There wouldn't be any extra. We wouldn't be setting up a speed trap here. It would just be the cops would do their normal job, but if along the course
I've
of the
never
day.
seen one person pulled over from here to Marmora, not one. I've seen lots on
No,
46.
I understand, but I'm pretty sure between here and Marmora, just in the last 5 years, there's probably been at least 2 or 3 fatalities. And that's more what people are concerned about. I understand people aren't gonna like getting tickets.
No, I know,
but to
yeah.
me, slow
I'm
down.
just saying, if you're gonna be open and honest.
Yeah, so what it is, so when it's declared a safety zone, they put signs up that say
Okay.
safety zone. And I don't know about
It'll say, sorry.
double fine.
It does.
Exactly. Community safety zone, you're entering a community safety zone, fines doubled.
Yes.
So that would be basically the cost to our municipalities would be buying those signs. So.
Cool. Good. So we do have a mover for the motion, so.
Seconded.
Second by Jerry. Okay, all in favor of the motion, and that's carried. And that is, there again, it's another provincial thing that they are cutting back on the cameras now, they've just eliminated them.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of affect. So.
Excuse me, the motion is to have staff get the information
And bring back a
because
report.
I don't want any confusion that we're going to ask for that to be from here to Marmora. It's an area in excess of Havelock.
Thank you. I just threw out
I
generalities. So nothing's been decided. This is just so council can have more information.
Thank you.
Decide if they do want to do this. So.
Yeah.
Because I think Norwood's looking at it too, so
Yeah,
like, I think it's Highway 7.
And 2 of them, like I said, North Kawartha has already passed it, and then OSM. Well, I think it still has to go back to the province, but we passed it at Police Services Board, so.
So you're driving along and all of a sudden you see a safety zone?
Yeah, the sign says community safety zone.
Safety zone means 80.
Or no.
No, it means if you get caught speeding, your fine's doubled.
So if you're in a 50 and you're doing 70.
Okay.
You'll, that 20 extra
Yeah,
quarters.
as long as you see the sign that says the safety.
Yeah, no.
Oh, they're trying this instead of the are they?
So, okay, so, all right, so that's, so next we have the bylaws here, we have bylaw being about the emergency management program. And the other one is, for the mayor and clerk enter into an agreement with Ontario Clean Water for, it's okay to put them together? A motion for those 2 bylaws to be moved by Councilor Clement, second by Councilor Flagler, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, so we do have a closed session item here, but so make a motion that we take a recess until 1 o'clock. Is that?
Yeah, John, he'll probably be here early, so we could start if you would.
Yeah, 10 to 1 if you can do it. I'm good with whatever you.
Home. Okay.
Yeah.
At home today.
Okay, so we'll take a recess until 10 to 1 and then we'll come back and see if we can.
Yeah.
Bring her back for close.
Like I say, I will be leaving at 20 to do. Okay, motion by Kathy, second by Art, all in favor. All right, so I'll look for a motion to go into closed session.
Yeah.
Held under section 239, proposed of pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipal and local boards. And 239 litigation, and potential litigation, including matters before the administrative tribunal. So motion to go into. Have moved it. Kathy second. All in favor? And that's carried.
All in favor, pass. Do we do bylaws, Bob? You done?
We did do bylaws.
Okay, so I just need a confirming.
We have a motion coming out of closed.
Okay.
That we accept the recommendation of the municipal solicitor. The two items that were discussed.
Okay, so we have a motion there made by Councillor Flagler, seconded by Councillor Clement. Favor?
Okay.
Pass, thank you.
That's Terry's turn.
Confirming bylaw
Oh, no.
Confirming bylaw.
and
did that.
confirming bylaw. Councillor Clement, Councillor Flagler, sorry, that's all in favor. And
This is usually you, but it's
I can't
Jerry
remember
this time. It's-
Hurry up, we're gonna have to get an extension.
we're going to adjourn. And I gotta keep, who's moving it today?
Jerry,
What?
your motion.
Yeah, I wasn't ready yet, so I don't, that's like sort of forcing my hand.
Who's moving it today?
I am.
Councillor Clement and Councillor Doherty. All in favor, thank you.